Welcome to lab number 8. So just looking at the requirements, the challenge part of the lab, which I'm sure you can read through and print off. You can see we're doing some previous configurations, just adding to that with some port security commands. So hopefully you're familiar with configuring a transparent mode on a switch, VLANs, creating an interface for the VLAN, and doing some pinging. So I'm on the live racks at the moment. The reason I'm using the live rack is I saw part of the requirement was the transparent mode and expanded range of VLANs, which we can't do in Packet Tracer. You could actually configure a normal VLAN for this lab, but I just thought I'd follow along with the instructions since they're on there. So I added the IP address to the router interface. I've already obviously changed the name of the switch to SW1. So standard configuration really to start with. I'm sure you're familiar with these commands by now. I won't bother with the show VTP status, although it'd be handy for you to put the command in and look at the various fields and outputs and the show VLAN brief. Handy commands to remember for the exam, give you a lot of very useful information very quickly. So we've configured our VLAN, given it a name. Going to configure a VLAN interface, just so we can ping between the switch and the router. Have to no shut the VLAN interface. And then obviously add our switch interface into the correct VLAN. I've set it to an access interface, hard set it. Just skipped out a few typos, got fat fingers today, so maybe one day the routers and switches will come with spell checkers, but until then. Alright, so we've done our configuration, just going to ping between the switch and the router. As I said in the previous lab, it can take a while, 30 to 50 seconds for the interface to come up. So you can just wait patiently, and if the ping fails, press the up arrow and it should work eventually. There we go, 100% success rate. Until you get this part of the lab working, you obviously can't go on to do the rest if you don't have that IP connectivity. So config T, and we're going to move on to our switch port security. A little bit of a pain, some commands have a dash in and some don't. It's just a case of remembering those, and you remember those by typing them in many times over. I'm just checking the MAC addresses that we need to put in. What they actually are, it's not important really for the lab, as long as we're putting some MAC addresses in. Now you should be able to paste into your router config. Start off with switch port security maximum 4, which is the main command we needed to add for this lab. For some reason it won't let me paste into this bar, the terminal, so I'm going to have to manually type them in. Not sure why paste isn't working, it was earlier on. Now it says switchboard port security maximum 4, so we're going to hit a slight problem because when I was writing the lab, it was an error really on our part. But I've kind of left it in there really because remember the switch is going to learn one MAC address from the attached router. So when I enter the fourth MAC address here, the switch is going to say, hang on a minute, it's actually reached its maximum. It scrolled some of the error message over. I'll continue on with the steps in the lab anyway and try and put another MAC address on, and it's telling me it's reached the maximum. So we've proved the lab off in 2 different ways really, in the fact that we can only enter 3, and I've tried to add more, and it's telling me, well, you can't do that because you specified 4. So show port security, and I'll show it on the interface. The other way around this lab is just configuring it without bringing the router interface up, and then it won't learn another MAC address. Show port security on the interface, which will drill down into more information. So you can see the outputs for yourself, but we've come to the end of the lab, and I'll see you on the next lab.